Okay, perfect. The new adjournment time is 2 p.m. I guess I'll just say we called, for the transcription purposes, we call the meeting to order at 12:39 p.m. and have moved the adjournment time to 2 p.m. Next thing is, Connor, can you share the live minutes again? I know what we're doing and what point of this are. And perfect. So we are currently on executive reports. President Easton, you are first. Go ahead.
Thanks, Cannon. So really, the work that I have done lately has been in preparation for the session of the meeting we've just concluded. And obviously, we had the special general meeting on this past Tuesday, in which we ratified several bylaw amendments, of which council will be aware. And I guess Matthew and I continue to sort of make the rounds at the faculty societies to talk about the proposed governance reforms. So reached out to SciSoc as of yesterday and awaiting a response from Engineering Society for their meeting upcoming this Wednesday, I think. Yeah, that's really most of what I've been doing. Steph and I met with several people in the provost's office about ombuds, the formation of an ombuds office on campus. And I would say it was a rather successful meeting. We meet again on the 1st of March. We've been collaborating with the GSA on that and making some headway after many years of consistent advocacy on this issue. I think that's really most of what I have. I guess there's all this business about the return to campus and FAO, which I imagine Steph will probably speak to a bit more. EAC has been in the loop, but mostly governance.
Thank you, Ben. Does anyone have any questions for Ben? Raise your hand. Nope. Perfect. We will move to the next report, but before we do, I think I really liked the way we ran our conversation around the governance review. So moving forward, and speaker document. So no need to put ones or twos in the chat. Email. Go ahead.
Okay, so it is my turn. Sorry,
Yes.
you like started cutting in and out there. Okay. Well, have you know that I am one step closer to becoming a Pokemon master. But with regards to my role as VP Education, yeah, a lot of what I've been working on over the last 2 weeks has been return to campus advocacy, mostly without assurance from the University Central Admin that there's going to be recorded lectures or remote options for assessments. We're worried about its impact on incentivizing Sikh students going to campus, and also students who, because of housing or immunocompromised or other sort of reasons, them being unable to progress in their degrees. That's something we're concerned about. So, given that we haven't been able to convince the administration to take a hardline stance on that and mandate instructors, we've been in communications with the Faculty Association to try and get their point of view and see what would be necessary to motivate individual instructors in order to adopt these practices. The Faculty Association has generally communicated with us that they feel as if there's a lack of support to do these things. Their instructors are burnt out. Although I would argue that definitely some of the practices that we're asking for probably don't take too much additional effort, but we're trying to approach advocacy in a way that's cognizant of those concerns. We've heard from the Faculty Association that their instructors have not been given any more guidance than what's been posted publicly of how they're supposed to accommodate students in their courses and what sort of expectations there are there. So that's something they wanted to communicate with students, and we did so in a very fun titled article that you can find on the WUSA webpage. I'm also still pushing for the return of credit non-credit, similar to what we saw in winter of 2020, just because this definitely has been a very disruptive term. UCrew Advocacy Week wrapped up. USA General Assembly is coming very soon in March. Again, applications close on Monday. You can find that in a link that I posted earlier, and I believe I also sent you an email. Someone wanted an update on the Employment Standards Act project. So that's something that we're still working on. The AVP Co-op Affairs is still looking through doing some preliminary research on the topic, but something that we're realizing is this issue has been brought up to the ministry on multiple occasions. They're aware of the issue. So we really have to think about how we frame the issue if we need additional research in order to encourage the province to add students underneath the Employment Standards Act. Because if we continue doing what we've done historically for the last 5 or however many years, and we're definitely not the only organization that is pushed on this, we're not going to get anywhere until we discover something new. So that's something that I'm working on with the full-time advocacy staff. Last thing I wanted to say, so EAC has been meeting regularly, almost every week now, from Tuesdays, I believe from 6 till 7. It is open to at-large students if they would like to be involved, or just counselors to sit in. As chair, it would be my decision whether or not you have speaking rights or not, but it's definitely, if you're interested in sort of a lot of the advocacy that's happening with Return to Campus and how those conversations are going and want to receive more thorough updates, that would be the right committee to attend. And if you would like to be invited to that, just shoot me an email at vp@wusa.ca.
Representative Aikino, go ahead.
Hi, Seth. I know I think I sent you an email a week or two ago, just to see if there's any sort of update about PD. I do understand like the return to campus probably has taken a lot of like precedence, but I just want to know like before the return to campus took a lot of I guess priority, if there was any other further work about PD courses, just because I know that was a big discussion at last, like the actual GM and council. So falling of the GM.
Yeah, so like following the GM, we had conversations with co-op discussing some of our concerns with PD, and ultimately we were able to convince them to develop a working group that would be responsible for basically helping the instructor who's recreating, I believe it's PD 12, getting continuous feedback on that process. And we're talking about ways of possibly expanding that for already existing PD courses. They're very much just doing a trial run. I believe I updated council on this a while ago when they were looking for members to sit on these committees. They are being compensated, but I do have my AVP participating in that group and making sure that the students who are participating feel as if they have the room in order to provide commentary or criticism in a way that isn't impeded by the fact that like they are being paid by co-op to take part in this revisionary work.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to know if there was any further update, especially since I know, because I'm in PDA right now from an Edge student perspective, which is like just for like experiential learning. And I know a comment on one of the discussion boards was like how like there was one module that wasn't necessarily representing I think Asian culture properly, and there's some concerns, and the TAs I felt were kind of dismissive towards like that student who is from that background. So yeah, I just want to know what was going on with PD updates.
Yeah, I believe that issue with that particular course has been brought up at Co-op Student Council, so C is aware of it, but just in case you're talking about something different, I would ask that you email coop.affairs@wusa.ca, just so that you can let my AVP know sort of what's going on there, and we can see if he can get that fixed in a more timely manner than waiting for the entire course to be redeveloped.
Thank you, Steph. Next, we have Councillor Macri.
Hi, I'm not sure if this is in order, but just because the like return to campus and accommodating students who are feeling unwell and can't come to class, things like that, since that's kind of at a prof by prof thing and not really standard. I was wondering if it would think it might be useful for the VP Ed if we could just, I don't know, like just like an emoji straw poll thing, just asking the people present if they're satisfied that at least in the classes they're enrolled in, that they wouldn't feel pressured to come to class if they were feeling unwell. Just because this has kind of been something that EAC has been struggling with, and I don't think it's until recently that students really even knew the answer to that.
Vincent, I think like it's not really a fair representation for doing this, because like
I just mean more
people
to give the VP Ed better feedback rather than everyone going around and saying yes, no, or maybe the counselors like vote on like what they've heard from their constituents and what they've seen in their own courses or something like that. So it's just kind of a yes, no question that I feel like it would be useful for the VP Ed to hear everyone answer.
I would there's two ways we can do this, right? Like I can have Mike draft a survey similar to the other survey that's going out and collect feedback through that venue, or I would suggest that we wait until new business and add it as a discussion item.
I just meant like an emoji poll in chat, just to give you a sense of what people are feeling.
I feel like that wouldn't be as useful for my purposes.
Okay.
Thank you. I had a question. Why do I forget what I was going to ask? What was discussed before the co-op thing, Steph? Sorry. Oh, yes. I remember. Could you maybe later on, sometime next week or something, send the minutes for the EAC meeting for people who don't really want to show up to meeting, but just like to know updates about what's happening there?
Yep, will do.
Thank you.
Yeah. And one last thing I wanted to note, I will get you folks the fall term AVP reports. I have them. I just missed the deadline to submit them in this council, and Cannon said don't give them even more documents to read. So that will be coming shortly.
Thank you, Steph. Next, we will move on to the Vpof report.
Much appreciated. I don't have a huge amount to report this time around. Most of my stuff lately has been dealing with board sort of facing things, but I'll note a few things for you all. Number one is that UPass and health plan opt-outs have both wrapped up. So the deadline for those have come and gone, and we're now in the process to sort of deal with and process all those refunds. Health plan, of course, will be working as normal, and the UPass will be working as normal, but since that's a little bit more of a new procedure, students can expect their refunds in the third month of the term, coming from UW Finance once we're able to hand over the list of approved refunds to them. So if your constituents ask about that, it'll be coming around the third month of the term. Don't know necessarily exactly when. In terms of things that I've been doing and up to in the last few months, last month, other than asking or answering a lot of student inquiries about how the UPass and health plan opt-outs work and details about that, I've been working with the VPSL on some of the specific implementation stuff around the bike center and the thrift store. that are being sort of set up and opened up, hopefully in the near future. Otherwise, I've been working on a lot of governance stuff. We've also had a lot of interest from students, which is nice to see, in the endowment funds, the SLEF and EOI that we have. But one issue I've had is getting quorum for the internal funding committee meetings to actually process and approve these things has been difficult. And it might be from waning interest of the current members. So one thing that I'm looking toward doing in the near future is going through the process to have the committee appoint some new members to the committee and replace some of these seats of students that may just be too busy at this point in their academic careers to continue to sit on these committees. But seeing as there is sort of that smaller interest and there are council seats on there, I wanted to ask council if they'd be okay with preemptively suspending Council Procedure 10, which requires that councillors that sit on the Committee of Presidents or on the Budget and Appropriations Committee do not sit on the Internal Funding Committee, so that should there be councillors that currently sit on those that are interested and experienced enough to sit on IFC for just the last remaining months, that we're able to appoint them, since interest does seem to be relatively low. If that's okay with council, I would like to motion to suspend Procedure 10 for the purposes of IFC replacing any seats that are vacant on it for the rest of the term here.
I will second, I guess.
For context for council,
I'm sorry, Matthew, there's a point of order. Go ahead, Vincent.
Yeah, I think it needs to be the other way around. The person giving the report can't move the recommendation. Someone else has to move it.
Nope, there's nothing like that.
Are you sure? I was checking Robert's rules on this the other day.
It's a motion that has been presented by a report and we can accept that report. And it's a motion coming out of the thing, that's fine. And again, Robert rules are used to help us run through the meetings, not cause a hindrance. So.
If I may just note something for context for everybody, it says these things for the idea of ensuring that there isn't too much power concentrated in any specific individuals. But at this stage, there's a very little time left on IFC, and having someone experienced to sort of step in, since they won't have that transitionary time, is nice. And the procedure really is so that normally this will not occur, but in circumstances like this, I feel that it's a use to the committee to sort of have that additional flexibility, and I'll just sort of leave that with council now, and if there's any discussion about that.
Before anyone speaks to this motion, I will just say this will require 2/3 majority, as this is a suspension of procedure. Does anyone want to speak for, against, or in general about this motion before we move to a vote? Going once. Go ahead, Councillor Mohammed.
I'm allowed to give my time to Nicholas, right? That's the thing.
Yes.
I do that.
Thanks, Councillor Mohammed. I think that the important thing here is, even if council moves forward with this, is to set a time limit on the time before those rules come back into place once more.
Yeah, in the motion, I believe I specified just till the end of the term. I figured, because there's a few months left. I don't imagine I'll have to reappoint the seats, to be honest with you.
Thank you for your concern, Schwartz.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to speak? I'm just gonna ask people if they are against this motion, that is to suspend procedure, just to raise their hand. I will give everyone 5-ish seconds to do that. Motion passes. Motion passes. If anyone wants to abstain, they can just type abstain in the chat, and if you want noted, Mike can note that.
Thank you very much.
I think that is about it.
All I've got to do now.
Okay. VP more abstain noted. Is that the entirety of your report, VP Schwartz? Perfect. We will move to VP Dong. Go ahead, VP Dong.
Hello, it's me again. I'm here every month. Things are going. The
Point of order.
campus life. Yeah.
I I had put in a 1 for the Vpof report and wanted to ask a question about it.
Okay, sorry, that was my mistake. Go ahead, Councillor Macri. I didn't see the 1 in the live minutes, so I didn't realize that, but go ahead.
So I was wondering if the Vpof just interested council had preliminary numbers for like what the UPass and health and dental plan, like, I don't know if opt-out is the right word for this, but what like those rates are like, just so council can have an understanding of how many students are using these programs. And additionally, if he has any updates on the housing project that council tasked him to do, and when council, if not when council could expect that update.
Thank you. So I don't believe that we have any of those numbers in the health plan stuff. We currently have a meeting scheduled for the claims report review with student care in the future. On the UPass opt-out stuff, we should have preliminary numbers on a number of people that have applied. Those aren't all necessarily eligible opt-outs. I believe it was in the neighborhood of 800. But Mike, if you have that more specific number off the top of your head.
Yes. The total numbers submitted were 935, but we found last year about 5 to 10% of those are people who just preemptively applied, so they might be on co-op and thought they were charged it. So that will be the max number, but it will probably dwindle down to, yes, like mid 800s. And out of, I think our number was about 23,000 students that were billed it from finance. So that is your guide there.
All right, so there you go, about the number that Mike gave. And then on the housing report stuff, I spoke a little bit about that at the general meeting for those of you that were there. In terms of specific developments on the report, I'm afraid I haven't made any specific developments other than sort of setting up the preliminary stuff with the research team, just for some amount lack of time and some amount focusing on other things. But that is proceeding, albeit a little bit slowly.
Thank you. VP Shortson, Councillor Macri. Do you have any more questions, Councillor Macri?
Sorry, I think I might have missed the last thing you said. When can council expect like a more detailed update?
I don't know how long, getting the research thing there. This is honestly something a little bit longer term. I've asked the research team sort of informally about looking at what other student associations do in this country and abroad. And then I've had some chats with commercial operations about what those things have, or what sort of their thoughts are on it, because they're the ones, most experienced with delivering some kind of services, although it's very clearly very much outside of what they're up to right now. I can commit to bringing a more concrete timeline and some more actual developments to the next council meeting.
Yeah, sure. Even a preliminary, if not final report would be appreciated. Progress update or whatever.
We will go next to VP Dong.
Hello, it's me again. The campus life engine continues to turn. We are in hiring for coordinator type positions for the bike center and for the thrift store. So that is the thrift store is a new sort of thing, and the bike center has a slightly revised structure that we are sort of testing out these few months. There's been a lot of toe stepping the last month, so a lot of what I've been working on overlaps with other executives, return to campus stuff, and budgetary needs of the bike center and other services have been on my mind, as well as USA writing. I have had meetings and have upcoming meetings with respect to various aspects of campus housing and campus wellness. I have been working with staff on plans to address concerns surrounding services and advocacy, as well as services staffing structures. Last month, a counselor asked me to submit an update this month on any progress with respect to recommendations laid out in the services review report. So that should be an appendix on the agenda. And I think that's anything that I can think of to proactively report.
Yes, I will go. First of all, thanks for providing the update on the services review. It was me who asked this. I just had a specific question. I think under future review, it says service-specific areas of the report will be reviewed as part of the long-term planning process for the services between the service manager and the service coordinators. I'm just wondering if this process has started. If not, do you have a timeline about when this would start and what we are looking at in the terms of those?
No, the process has not started. I would like to have it done, I'm thinking mid to end of March.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions for, I guess Councillor Kami has one. Go ahead, Councillor Kami.
Yeah, you might not know this, but I was just wondering if you had a timeline for when the thrift store would be, if not opening, beginning to accept like donations of clothing to get it up and running.
We do have, I guess, like merchandise. We have a large shipping container full of clothing that's been collected from residences over the years. I don't know what the, I guess, actual procedural steps of donating clothing are, and I know that opening is resting right now on it's half the staffing part of it and half the opening of campus part of it. But with respect to that part of the question, I'd suggest that if you can email me, I can forward it to the staff member who can actually answer your question.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Any more questions for Repeat Dong? Going once, going twice. Okay, we will move to the chair report. Go ahead, Chair Simpson.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon now. The next meeting of the board will take place on, what day of the week is it? Wednesday, February 16th at 5:30 p.m. We currently will be reviewing a first reading of the bylaws, similar to the first reading that took place at this council meeting, but with the board. Then we'll have an opportunity over the next month or so to do a second and third reading, similar to the process that council will go through. We will hopefully have some more minutes to approve at that meeting, because I know that there were some questions about the minutes. I have not received minutes yet, but hopefully we'll have an opportunity to approve more minutes, so everybody will have an opportunity to read our public minutes. I'm not sure if there are any questions. If there are, I'm happy to take them. If not, I guess at our last meeting, we just approved the general meeting agenda. So I don't believe there's anything to report from there, because you all saw the agenda and participated in the general meeting agenda. I'll take questions now.
Any questions for our chair? Scott-free. Good to go, Abby.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good Sunday.
Yep, bye. Next, we have representative reports. We will start with the Arts Caucus.
Hi, there's nothing much to really report on, but yeah, that's all. Thank you.
Okay, next we have the Engineering Caucus.
Hi, this is Edward from Engineering Caucus. Things are happening. We have a lot of concerns with moving back to in-person, and we're working with a lot of our faculty on that. I know we have a roundtable coming up with some people on Wednesday with our regularly scheduled engineering council meeting, so we're hoping to make some of those concerns known, I assume, and I know there's a lot of things that students have been bringing up about courses, so we're keeping an eye on that.
Thank you. Next, we have the Environment Caucus.
Nothing to report from the Environment Caucus. Thanks.
Perfect. Thank you. Next, we have the Health Caucus.
Yeah, not much to report in health. The health faculty sent out an email regarding return to in-person and what they were mandating for health professors. So if we discuss that in new business, I will bring it up. But as a gist, the health faculty is not requiring professors to provide online lecture content. They are encouraging it, but it is not being mandated, however. And yes, Steph, I will forward you that email.
Thank you, Councillor Kami. Next, we have Math Caucus.
Okay, so I guess some of the key updates is we've started renovations of our C&D. Hopefully that'll be done before the end of term. We've met with our faculty. They also started seeing that like our office is going to be reopening. We have plans into for space to meet with them about M4 plans and space agreements. And yeah, I think Vincent then can update a bit more too.
Thank you. But Vincent, before I let you update, I just had a question for President Sibursma. Is there a date when the MATSOC office will be opening?
Monday.
Okay, thank you. Next, Vincent, continue with the updates for the MATSOC.
Yeah, I wanted to update council a bit on MATSOC's advocacy efforts on ProctorU, since I know some other councilors had concerns about that. I wanted to share with them. We found that two courses this term in the math faculty, the online sections of Stat 230 and 231 were using ProctorU. We found that students were asked very early in the term, like unreasonably early in the term, to sign a midterm location declaration form to either decide if they would come to campus to write their exam or write it with ProctorU. This form didn't clearly state that students did have other options. Instructors are required to provide other alternatives, and the form didn't state that. After working with the assistant dean for online teaching, the associate dean for undergraduate studies, who then worked with CEL, it seems now that because of this issue with the instructors not being able to do what they're supposed to do, CEL took over the, I guess, administration of where students are writing their exams for this course, since this is a CEL course. And my understanding is this, basically this should allow students to, re-opt out if they miss the like opt out of using ProctorU and opt for something else if they miss the original deadline, if I read the email correctly. So yeah, that's a good thing. If you see something like that in your faculty where a course using ProctorU didn't actually allow students to give informed consent or not, then definitely raise that with your faculty leadership so that they can look into it.
Thank you, Councillor Macri. Does anyone have any questions for the Math Caucus? Nope, we will move to Science Caucus. Go ahead, Science Caucus.
Not many updates from science. We're just working on with SciSoc and our Faculty of Science Foundation to work on improving student spaces in the science buildings. And other than that, we're also meeting with our associate deans. The SciSoc team is to discuss any academic concerns and any future concerns we have with courses going back in person and things like that.
Any questions for Science Caucus? Yep, we will move to Cambridge Caucus. Do we have someone from Cambridge Caucus? Seems like not. Okay, we will move to Kitchener Caucus. I guess we don't have a representative from Kitchener either. We will move to the Stratford campus. Seems we don't have a representative from there either. St. Jerome. Seems they're also absent. Renison.
I'm here.
Go ahead,
I
Representative
don't,
Aquino.
I don't have much to report really. It's just like pretty much I guess what everyone else is doing, just like figure out like return to campus stuff. The accessibility community for Renison met this previous Friday, and we just discussed about like certain things regarding like online lectures. One thing that did bring up is like how for volunteering for like tutor note taking services, like something to maybe do with possibly accessibility services or Renison. Because someone brought up the concern about how most people don't ever volunteer to note take when there are students, such as myself, really benefit from it. But that's it.
Thank you, Representative Aquino. Any questions for okay, so we have a message from Representative Baines saying they have no updates from the Kitchener Caucus, so we should be good. Next, we can move on to the officers report. Speaker Easton, go ahead.
Thanks, Cannon. I guess the only thing I'll say in speaker report is something I touched on when we were doing our first reading, that we're thinking sort of for the purposes of transition between models to have a grouping of recommendations approved by council to carry over to the next year. And so that would be things like committee terms of reference and other things that we want to keep about council. We're sort of thinking about this as well, like within exec committee, about keeping trying to minimize disruption if we end up switching models. So I guess stay tuned for that.
Thank you, Speaker Easton. Next, it's me. I really don't have anything to update except I'm really happy with how well the governance review discussion went and how smooth it was. Yes, we will move on to Secretary Schwartz.
I don't have a huge amount to report in my capacity as secretary. However, if a reporting secretary or deputy secretary would like to report anything, now would be the time.
I have heard from IT that Microsoft is not being very helpful in trying to find the November council meeting recording due to the tech issues that happened there. So it is unlikely that we will see the light of day on those, and I'm sorry to report that.
Thank you. It's a recording Secretary Samantha. Just to confirm, Mike, we still have the minutes from the actual meeting, right? It's just not the recording. Perfect. Okay. Assistant Secretary Rettinger, do you have any updates? Or would you like to give any updates?
Nope, I'm good.
Perfect. We will move on to general audits because we've already finished our special audits. The first was the item return to campus survey, which was submitted by VP email. And the discussion will be capped at 10 minutes. I'll second the discussion, and I will let staff have the first speaking turn.
Hi there. Yeah, so just wanted to provide this report to council for information, the fact that it exists and sort of the results entailed within there. This was something that was proposed by our full-time staff. They basically wanted to get a sense of how to return to campus was going with regards to our own operations, also the university's operations, and to some extent, obviously things are different because Omicron wasn't around at the time, but how students were feeling in terms of the plan to return to campus for winter and the safety measures and whatnot that was there. So there's a lot of good information there regarding students' experience with return to campus to fall term. We've developed some recommendations from that earlier on with regard to opening more study spaces and pointing out some of those concerns. I guess just have a look at that if you want a better, well, basically a sample of at-large students, how they experience return to campus will probably be useful, I guess, for the faculty societies as they kind of deal with the struggles of return to campus. Yeah, feel free to ask any sort of questions or any comments for any follow-up action you want following this report.
Does anyone have any questions or comments about the report? Going once, going twice, and Councilor Macri, go ahead.
So given that this report was done a little bit ago, as you said, the report says something like 47% of students, 48 were still looking for housing at the time the survey was conducted. Do you have any sense of if that number has changed at all since the survey was conducted?
Are you referring to the return to campus survey or the other survey? Because
I think I was looking at that. I was looking at that housing survey. I lost track. Never mind. I'll ask that question again in a minute.
Anyone has any questions about the return to campus survey? Going once, going twice. Okay, well, we will move to item 6.2, which is return to campus housing survey. Again, submitted by VP Emo. I will second, and VP Emo, you have the floor.
Yeah, so I believe Catherine and I talked about the results of this survey both during the GM and during the time at which we were putting it together. So this is basically just showing council a finalized copy of the results and where students were at early on in December when we were able to do this report. Unfortunately, we don't really have the ability to collect more data on it without bombarding students with surveys. But we did use it in our consultations with, we did bring it forward to like local politicians, including the city, to discuss sort of the major concerns that exist for students. At very least, it exists as to demonstrate the fact that finding housing was not easy and that there's probably demographic shifts that have happened that create new challenges for housing within our region. If any professor starts telling you stuff about like, oh no, there's no excuse for why students shouldn't, be here, kindly direct them to that survey. I think students were more than reasonable in terms of what they were looking for in their housing, and we're probably going to see students from lower income backgrounds probably had a real struggle of a time finding housing, and we really don't want I guess to what's the word I guess to deepen existing like boundaries to education and success. So we're kind of using that as an argument as well to request remote access to course materials, given that it's probably the folks who couldn't afford to shell out, over $1,000 a month to find last minute housing, who are probably facing the most issues.
Thank you, Vice President Emo and Councilor Macri. Does anyone else have any questions they would like to ask? Going once, going twice. Perfect. We will move to
Sorry,
Sorry.
I didn't get I didn't hear if the vice president answered my question from earlier about if that number of students who are still looking for housing has changed at all.
I believe they said that there's no way for them to know.
Okay.
Okay, we will move on to item 6.3, which is postponement of VUSA elections. Some issued by President Easton. I will second. And the motion reads, be it resolved that the Students' Council advises Board of Directors to defer the 2020 election to a date in the spring 2022 term to be determined, and be it further resolved the Students' Council tasks the President with preparing an elections timeline for consideration at the April regular meeting. Anyone has any comments? Well, actually, sorry, President Easton, you have the floor first.
Thanks, Kenan. Yeah, so this is a formality. As council will know, the amending bylaw, which was ratified on Tuesday, permits the board of directors to make this decision for the election scheduled in 2022 to postpone it to a date not later than the 1st of September on the advice of Students' Council. This motion is to advise the board on making that decision, which will be at, I think we meet on like the 17th of February or something before reading week. So really yeah, pro forma kind of thing. And then on the for timelines, April I think is a good meeting to do that because it'll be after the annual general meeting scheduled for the 29th of March. So we'll have a clearer idea about the bylaw situation to sort of update council on what's going on with yeah, like what the status of the governance changes and so on.
Anyone has any questions for President Easton or comments on this motion? Going once. Sorry, go ahead, Ben.
Just one last question or points to make on the issue of elections. It's been brought to my attention that when we were doing this postponement of elections, we kind of didn't consider Senate elections. So I think we will we'll basically do like a by-election probably in March for the Senate vacancies so that we can have them reported to the university secretariat by like April or before May 1st, certainly. But this is for like basically election to executives, the directors, and Students' Council specifically for clarity.
Thank you, Ben. Anyone has anything they would like to say? Going once, going twice. Okay, we will move to voting on this. Anyone against this, please raise your hand. Anyone abstaining, please raise your hand. Councillor Macri noted an abstention. If a councillor requests a formal vote, they can do that, but I don't think there's any need for this because we all agreed to this. Go ahead, Councillor Mohammed.
I request a formal vote.
Okay, we are going to do
And if I can advise, perhaps.
Yeah, please do.
We can put in the chat. So the question will be advise the postponement of elections. In the chat, and we'll do thumbs up is to vote in favor. Sad react is opposed, and what do we usually do? I don't know. Thumbs up in favor.
Sad react against. Angry face is abstaining.
Okay.
time.
Okay, I will give another 5 seconds for people to vote.
Who was the second on this motion?
It was me. Going once, going twice. Okay, the motion passes with VP Schwartz and Councilor Malky noted in abstention. Okay, we are now moving on, and VP Dong also noted in abstention. Perfect. Next, we have
always
new business. I guess, does any counselor have anything they would like to bring up in new business? Going once. Going twice. And no, okay, we will move to announcements. Does anyone have any announcements they would like to make? Go ahead, Ben.
Just that to please fill out the when to meet in the email I sent on Friday about timing for a special meeting to do a second reading of the bylaw. And then otherwise, I just wanted to thank everybody for their very helpful feedback in doing the first reading. It was a very productive meeting and very appreciative of your time and like engagement through this process. So thank you.
Okay, any other announcements? Nope. Okay, I will move to adjournment at 1:31 p.m. And it's finished. We're done, folks.
Happy
Everyone
Sunday.
Pokemon.
What Pokemon are you doing, Steph?
I am playing the new Pokemon game. The Pokemon Arceus. I have the owl one. Roller.
Is the game good? What do you recommend?